This partial solar eclipse on March 29th is marking a threshold between what was and what will be. This solar eclipse is at 9 degrees in Aries, and solar eclipses are always on a new moon. And then during a new moon, the sun and the moon are conjunct. They're right on top of one another. And in this case, they're at 9 degrees. The other thing that's really important about this partial solar eclipse is the stellium that is taking place between the sun, the moon, Chiron, and Mercury. So Chiron is the wounded healer. And the wounded healer in your birth chart is what an astrologer would look at and tell you that these are the lessons that are really important for you to learn, because once you learn them, then it's like the venom becomes the antidote, where that these wounds and these painful lessons end up becoming a part of your greatness, essentially. And so we have Chiron, and then Mercury. It's in retrograde right now. It's going to be in retrograde until April 6th. And Mercury is the planet of communication, of learning, intellect, and travel. And so when a planet is retrograde, it is said that it is in the underworld. And if you are looking at astrology as how it affects our psychology, the underworld represents our subconscious. So between March 29th and September 7th, so in this next 6 months, we're going to be transversing this threshold between who we were or who we thought we were to who we will become. For some of us, this will be very literal. By September, your life may not be the same. You may have a new job, you may have a new career. It all kind of depends on your own birth chart and how this solar eclipse is aligning with your own natal chart. But regardless of your natal chart, change is on the horizon. Whether or not it's going to change your external circumstances more overtly with like moving or a new job, new relationship, something of that nature, or it's more internal, which could definitely be the case because Pisces plays a really big part in this solar eclipse. And we're going to get to that here in a second. And Pisces is very much about our spiritual life, our internal life, our psychological life. And it also plays a big part with our subconscious reality. So we have the sun and the moon. The sun is your identity. The moon is your emotions. And those are at 9 degrees. Everything is wrapping up. Number 9 is the number of completion. Aries is associated with the sovereign self. So Aries is associated with the planet of Mars. So usually the first thing that people think of with Aries, they think of like combat or war, passion or aggression. But it's also the gift that Aries can give us is it allows us to really, if it is in its light side, it allows us to have like a new perspective of our own identity and allows us to take courageous steps to protect our sovereignty, to instill healthy boundaries, and to be able to assess whether or not being in relationship, whether or not that's an intimate relationship, friendship, or business, if that is not just a self-giving thing, but also is something that you can find reciprocation from as well. So in the lunar eclipse video that I did 2 weeks ago, we talked a lot about how that eclipse was mirroring a lot of the energy that we were experiencing back when the North Node was in Aries and the South Node was in Libra. Since then, it has transitioned. The North Node is in Pisces, South Node is in Virgo, but we are still wrapping up some of the last little details of that very intense opposition between the North Node and the South Node in Aries and Libra. A lot of us went through major relationship upheavals, and Venus is in retrograde, and Venus is going to be in retrograde until April 12th. And when Venus is in retrograde, that is when it starts digging up our past, especially in love and relationships, but also it could be money and our career as well, because Venus is also associated with wealth and with luck. So it digs up anything that from our past that wasn't working. It's one of those kind of almost like a running joke with people who follow astrology that when Venus goes retrograde, then that's like when your ex shows up. And it's always said, like, whatever you do, don't call your exes on a Venus retrograde. It's kind of a running joke, but it's true, is that you are more likely to think about the past, think about what has worked and what has not worked. And this is all a good thing, because both Mercury, which is also kind of hanging out with Venus in retrograde in the underworld, they are excavating our subconscious to make way for something new. So our external reality is a lot more influenced by what the landscape of our subconscious is, a lot more than we would like to think. So there is this image that they talk about with when you talk about subconscious, is that your conscious mind is like the tip of the iceberg that floats above the ocean, and then your subconscious is like that huge iceberg mass that's underneath the water. That's what our subconscious is, and a lot more of how we experience our life is influenced by these ninja-like influences that are in the background. This is the time in which we can start seeing, or we have a better ability to start seeing our blind spots. That it's almost like Venus and Mercury is like the rear view mirror in the car, and is allowing us to see what it is that we left behind. And perhaps maybe we can even adjust that mirror a bit and be able to actually kind of see into our blind spot a bit to see what has not worked and what has worked. What is it that needs to be left behind, and what can we learn from Chiron, the wounded healer? What can we learn from so that we can take that knowledge and turn it into wisdom, so that our future has a little bit more ease, a little bit more grace, and so that we don't repeat patterns that aren't very helpful. So that brings me to the other stellium that is in play here. We have Neptune, Venus, and the North Node that are also in a stellium, and they are in Pisces. So we have Aries, which is our identity. It's also our passion. It's our gusto. It can be combative. So, there is something to be said that, especially for these, I would actually say all the way through April, because there's going to be some very interesting things that are going to happen at the end of April. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in the full moon video that comes up in a couple weeks. But at the end of the April, I would definitely say, like, keep your anger in check, because there's a lot of tension around the next full moon, and there's a lot of things that are transitioning at the end of April that could make people a little bit more aggressive than typical. But that's for another video. I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. So this Piscean energy is allowing us to take a look at our spiritual side, taking a look at our subconscious, and as well as an enhanced intuition and imagination. So we have Venus that's in Pisces, and it is with Neptune. They're almost like on top of each other. So Venus is at 28 degrees, Neptune's at 29 degrees, North Node is at 26 degrees. So Venus and Neptune are almost like bed buddies right now. And Neptune is on his way out. So Neptune rules Pisces, and it is really happy in Pisces. But it is going to be going into Aries in 2 days. So no, actually, no, it's going to be going in on the 30th. So it's going to be 1 day from the solar eclipse. And that's a big deal. Neptune is one of those very slow moving planets. So when it shifts into another sign, it is a big deal. And it will stay there for approximately 14 years. So Neptune, it rules our spiritual connection, our intuition, our imagination, and we do have to be somewhat careful, because in its dark side, if we are not willing to look at our blind spots, if we are wanting to distract ourselves more than have purpose and fulfillment and lasting joy, it can lead to delusions and illusions. So as long as we can keep ourselves in check and be real with ourselves, actually looking at the darkness and our dark blind spots is what's going to make way for more light. It's what I call diving for light. Diving into the subconscious, taking a look at why those parts that aren't healed, why they got hurt in the first place, and understanding why we have certain maladaptive coping mechanisms. Because most of the time, all those parts of you, they actually really love you. It's like a really well-intended friend whose tactics are all off. So the trust issues, for example, might be because, there's a part of you that's trying to keep you safe, trying to keep your inner child safe. Or perhaps the codependent mechanism that you seem to fall into in your relationships and have a pattern of this codependency is really about control and wanting to, again, keep ourselves safe. A lot of this stuff is about some sort of sense of safety. So whatever it is that might be there, most of the time, it isn't because your subconscious hates you. Most of the time, it's because there is a part of you that is desperately trying to survive. And this kind of alignment here with Pisces and Aries. Aries is going to give us the gusto and the courage to be able to dive into those depths. And Pisces is going to be able to give us the wisdom and the bird's eye view perspective, if you will, and a little bit of a softness, because if it was all Aries, it would be pretty rigid and pretty hard, to have a bit more compassion for those parts of ourselves. So this really is a beautiful way to segue into any new beginning, which by September, even if your new beginning isn't really external oriented, so it really all depends on your birth chart. Some of us will have new careers, some of us will have new relationships, you might be moving. A lot of people are going to have big changes in the next 6 months that are tangible. If yours aren't tangible, then most likely you will be going on a spiritual journey if you choose to take that journey. This would definitely be the perfect launching point for any kind of deep transformation that you may have either wanted to take place or have maybe suspected needed to take place. Regardless, change is in our future, and eventually it's going to be for the better. But like any change, any threshold, it can be a little messy, And that's just life. It can just be a little messy. The other thing that I wanted to talk about too was Saturn being in Pisces as well. And Saturn, it's not necessarily unhappy in Pisces, but it's not exactly in its favorite neighborhood in Pisces either. But what's really good about this is that it's going to allow us to take our aspirations and really ground them into reality. I think that Saturn being in Pisces with all of this is giving us a reality check and is helping us to steer away from any tendencies that all this Piscean energy could give us, where it could tip us into an illusion or a delusional state. Saturn is about systems, it's about tradition, it's about karma, time-bound consciousness. It is very, very earthy and contained. So it can take it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of us have big ideas and aspirations and aha moments really it could go through this next 6 months, but especially in this next month, I think that a lot of us are going to have very intense dreams, lightning bolt aha moments, and Saturn is what will allow us to take those aha moments and make them into something that's tangible and something that's real. The other thing too is I want to go back to Chiron that's in Aries. That's part of the stellium with the sun and the moon. And Chiron is at 22 degrees in Aries. And that, if we're taking a look at numerology, is also something that is very, very important, because 22 is one of the master builder numbers. So whatever it is that's coming, that might come up for you, from your past, You might have like an aha moment of like, oh, that behavior, that thing I do, that's actually really affecting me. It could be something that's a seemingly benign habit. Or it could be something that is like a pattern in your relationships, your relationship with money. Like it could be a lot of things. That, whatever it is that comes up for you, really take a look at it. Don't just like brush it off to the side. Don't have time to deal with it, because that it's like the way through is two. And so those aha moments, those epiphanies that you might have are the very thing that's going to allow you to build something greater. It's like the relationship between the Tower card in the tarot and the Star. So the Tower card is like when everything kind of crumbles, like old structures, old foundations, things that we really thought were solid in our life, and they break apart. And then and then in the Star card is the resurrection. And it's like that rising up from the ashes. It could very well be considered like the Phoenix card. And so Chiron being at 22 degrees is saying, hey, your tower is already crumbled, whether or not you're aware of it or not. Like the past is already on its way out. And now it's time to take whatever rubble happens to be there and assess it. So this isn't a tower crumbling kind of solar eclipse. I think that for most of us, the tower, the old paradigm, the old phase that we have been living has already done so. It's already gone. Some of us may not know that. And either you will find that out, or you've already found out and you've already have come through some very difficult changes, especially in the last year. And now you will start creating a plan. You will start getting perhaps even visions, some epiphanies on what the new structure is for you. You can do whatever you want with the rubble from the tower. You could build a wall if you need more safety. You could build a quaint little cottage. You could move the rubble somewhere and maybe build a tower somewhere else. Like you can do whatever you want with that rubble. And the Piscean and Aries energy is allowing us to have this beautiful balance between the I am of Aries and the I believe of Pisces, and create a new identity for ourselves if you need just a complete makeover, or a new life. So if you have been feeling stuck, if you've been feeling stagnant, or like it just seems like no matter what it is that you are putting out there, like you're just not getting the return back, if you feel like you've been on a hamster wheel, like I have good news for you. That time is coming to an end very soon, and it's highly likely that you're going to get off the hamster wheel and you're going to like really be moving ahead. So if you've been feeling stuck, like there's a lot of hope here, a lot of hope. The last thing I want to talk about with the astrology is that Mars trines the stellium that is Neptune, Venus, and the North Node. Mars is at 22 degrees in Cancer. That number again, 22, right? So we have a lot of number nines, and we have this number 22 that keeps coming up. So this completion and this master builder number of like, you're not in the master number, it's like you're not just throwing something together. Like this is going to be like some like spiritually architectural masterpiece. You are going to be able to completely renovate whatever part of your life you feel needs renovating. And if you don't know which part of your life needs renovating, that will become very clear. So Mars doesn't really like being in Cancer, though it's literally fire and water. Cancer is water, it's the crab, and Mars is very fiery, and Mars rules Aries. So, but what is the gift about this, even if it feels like kind of, like it can feel kind of agitating. What it's going to also do, though, with all the stellium that's in Pisces is it's going to give us the energy in order to do the things that may be a little hard for our own best good. So that can be something like starting new habits, for example, getting yourself to the gym, cleaning up your diet, taking more time for your own self-care. Those things, as simple as they sound, can be really, really difficult. Mars is going to help us get over the inertia, because if anything Mars is energetic, and it's able to bust through, heavy resistance. So it's going to give us a lot more of an enhanced ability to not just have awareness on what it is that we need, but also the energy to do something about it. So with that being said, we have taken a look at the stars above. Let's take a look and see what the tarot has to say below, and see if we can get some additional insight on our own individual hero's journey as it pertains to this solar eclipse in Aries on March 29th. How can we use this for our highest benefit? And as I am shuffling these, I invite all of you to set your own personal attention that whatever part of the messages that come through, that if there is one or two or more that really pertain to you and your circumstances, that you intuitively are going to know instinctively, like, yep, that's the one that I needed to hear. Because not all of the messages may be for you. So, okay. All right. So this is a threshold, right? Like I said, the solar eclipse is a time where we're going to be in this liminal space. And in this next 6 months, we are going to see a real letting go, tying up, wrapping up of the old, and the initiation of the new. So there is a new relationship that's happening. The Two of Cups comes up, and the Two of Cups is always about relationships. And what's also very interesting is that this is both our relationship with ourselves as well as our relationship with others. So you can see here that there is a black cup and a white cup. That's like our dark side and our light side. This isn't necessarily bad and good. That is kind of a common misunderstanding, but it's a balance between the two. So it's really important that if there is some healing that comes up, or a need for healing that comes up, that we don't approach it with self-judgment or shame, that we just accept that even if we don't know at the time what that's about, that we approach it with compassion and some empathy for ourselves. Because at the end of the day, your subconscious and your entire system is doing the best that it can. And this new relationship with ourselves, how it is going to be reflected into our external life, our more public life, is going to be, we need to be very conscientious about being overly defensive. So the Seven of Wands reversed is about the need to defend oneself. So there might be some things that come up where we don't necessarily want other people to know, or we might be embarrassed of our own behavior or actions. And if that's the case, it will be important to not be defensive. And instead, the next cards that come up is, there's two cards that came up together. And when they come up together, I look at it as like the same thing as like when planets are conjunct, when they're on top of one another, it's like their energies are more combined. We have the Four of Swords reversed, which is a need to rest, to meditate, to pause, to go within, and the Queen of Wands reversed. So the Queen of Wands, I look at her as being like the, she's like the good witch of the tarot card, of the tarot deck. She has her black cat there. Oh, there we go. And that black cat, it represents her shadow. And so it is a domesticated cat because she has domesticated her own shadow self, her subconscious. She has a loving relationship with that part of herself. She knows that that part of herself really is there to try to protect her and nurture her, and it's more about having a good relationship with that part of ourself versus getting rid of it or trying to amputate it, which never works. And then we have the Four of Cups reversed, which is we're pausing. It's not a no, it's a not right now. So be careful that we are not being reactive, that we are instead pausing enough. Four of Swords is always a card that comes up if we are tired, if we are exhausted, and it's time to take a pause, it's time to take a rest so that we can do the internal work to see how we might be getting in our own way or contributing to influences that we don't really like. And then with that self-analysis, eventually we will be able to move ahead again. But right now, if you're not necessarily spending your time doing nothing, with, distracting and such, but really taking exquisite good care of yourself, nurturing yourself, and reaching out for assistance if needed. So with that being said, I do have a very exciting announcement that there is a new program that I am unleashing. It is called Turn Your Sensitivity into Strength, and I will be giving more and more information in the next couple weeks for that. It's actually very well timed with everything that's going on in this next month and actually in the next 6 months, because it's truly about helping people who are empathic, highly intuitive, and highly sensitive be able to not just survive, but thrive. So thank you all so much for joining me here. I also have an event if you are in the Phoenix area. I have an event coming up on April 26th where I will be reading and doing a ceremony to help us tap into our intuition and listen to our own guides. So thank you so much for joining me here. If you would like to make sure that you always know when these readings are taking place, then sign up for my newsletter at info@BeTheWholeYou with just the letter u.com. And if you are needing some clarity and a fresh reflection to make some clear decisions in your own life, then also you can book an appointment there as well. Thank you all, and I'll see you back here in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.